Okay, so we have already opened the meeting at 1 o'clock and read the Zoom script. All 5 members are participating. Lucy, Jason, Angus, Brooke, and I. And we're starting the agenda at 13 Commercial Wharf Additions. And I will share my screen.
Hey, Mickey, can you hear me? It's Bill McGuire.
Hi, Bill, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. And
Great.
also, my client, Andis Rowe, is also on Zoom meeting.
Oh, good.
And so she may, I'm sure she'll have some questions or comments for you as well.
Terrific. Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome.
All right. This is the notes from the last review at the HDC, and they were looking. They're saying too big, awkward roof lines, lost some charm of the original structure, no character, it's oversized. Oliver said it's confusing, nothing with bubble, and agrees with what's been said. Okay, so we're looking at revisions submitted by Bill. And I'm going to say, I'm going to read my comments, which I usually do. So that, and then, well, Bill, do you have anything you want to say to begin with?
Well, the plans that I submitted for this review, in subsequent conversations with the owner, she would like to see a few minor tweaks to this. So I don't know if you want to do the tweaks first. I don't have the drawings. I don't know how to screen share. So I can verbally explain what we're thinking of doing.
Are they major changes to what you presented?
Well, it's mostly on the north elevation, the one that's up on the screen on the right-hand side right now.
Yeah.
So you see the, let me see. Can you, okay, you see the previously proposed, the little one?
Yep, below.
In the middle there? Yep, so it would look very similar to that, except that the, instead of having that second floor come all the way out to the face of the new addition, it would still be set back 6 feet, and the existing window, that's the middle window, that's also to be where the existing window is now. So the right-hand portion, instead of having the little gable end, it would be just a larger gable. It would look more like the previously approved than what's up there now, except for the roof that comes across in front over the front door. Did that make sense?
Maybe a little. It was hard to follow, but I think, you know, we can't really get too deeply into that yet, because we're just looking at the application you submitted. So I have some comments that are, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
No, not at this time. I think we'll reserve until after you guys make your comments, and then we can hopefully have a bit of a little dialogue for tomorrow night.
So I've got a short list of things, and to be honest, Bill, you're not going to like this, but so
that's fine.
All right. This proposal does not at all reflect the basic principles outlined in building with Nantucket in mind. The massing is very confusing, with no prominent main mass, and the additive masses are awkward and don't relate to the building as a whole. The front door is within an inappropriate negative mass created by 2 holes cut into the shingled wall. The forwardmost mass facing Commercial Street is an odd combination of hip, shed, and gable roofs, with an unnaturally shaped wall surface interrupted by one of the 2 wall cutouts. This needs to be redesigned to look more like a typical Nantucket house with traditional additive massing. And HSAB would like to see further revisions. So is there anybody on our board that wants to add to those comments? Anybody?
Nikki, I think that's
What's been
well said and
today.
expresses our concerns. Mine anyway.
Okay. Thanks, Angus. Brooke, anything else?
I have nothing to add. I think you summed it up quite nicely.
Okay. Lucy or Jason? Agreed.
No, nothing.
Okay. All right. So there you go, Bill. Sorry about that, but it's, you know, I really think that this could look more like a house. It's kind of really confusing. And I think that, you know, that area, it's a residential area. And I'm not seeing that in this design. So that's my thinking.
Okay, well, the existing house, as you can see in the photographs, has that the cutout for the front door. And so we were just bringing that back because another portion of this is that when it was first built back in the early 2000s, the floodplain was at 9 feet. Now it's at 11 feet. So part of this proposal is to raise it up to 2 feet as well to be in line with the new floodplain elevation.
Mhm.
So there's not awkward steps on the inside.
Got it.
So
Right.
anyway, we're just recalling the existing opening.
Yeah, and I'll, you know, I understand that you're sort of using that as a model for partially for this project. I'm not sure I think that that's an appropriate cutout either. It's sort of, to me, it's kind of an awkward negative mass on like a more open additive porch with a porch post and railing normally presents. So so you heard my comments. I'm not sure I can add
Yes.
anything more to that. Does Anne want to make any statements at this point, or are we done with this one?
I'm trying. Sorry, can you everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for your time. You know, what we're trying to do is adapt this house because we're gonna have to raise it, as Bill just mentioned. Bringing the front door back because it's really not convenient to go off to the side. I have 4 young children and elderly parents and et cetera. Even just bringing suitcases into the house, it's just not convenient to bring them across. So we're bringing back the front door. And I think that was a comment you guys had because initially I liked if we were going to pick a side to enter from the side, I would have preferred the side the driveway is on. And I think that's what Bill initially proposed to you. And then you wanted to have the front door facing Commercial Street. So we're kind of limited on where to do that. That's where he's drawn that. What I do think though, is that the house, the elevations are a lot cleaner and nicer when we retain the original window that is in the that middle window, and that it's there for the stairs, and then you have the 2 parts coming out, 2 gables coming out from there, rather than melding one in front of the other. So unfortunately, I'm not sure, Bill, you can't pull it up because it, you know, as you can well understand, preparing and getting the opportunity to have this meeting takes a long time. And I would have loved to have had your comments while we had your audience so that we could save time on waiting yet for another opportunity like this. So I had asked Bill to use this time to show you that elevation that we created to get your comments. But Bill, have you figured out how to show it to them?
I have no clues unless it's really easy, but I'm on my iPad. And so I can't, I'm sure I can't get it from my computer to my iPad to get it on this one right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have to comment on the proposed application anyway, so
Right.
we can't normally really look at revisions to applications.
So it sounds like we have to come back.
Well, I think we would like to see you come back, yes. And I know it's a time-consuming thing, but that's the nature of it these days, I guess.
Right. All right. Well,
Mickey,
thank you.
when
for
is,
your time.
when is the next meeting, Mickey?
Well, we meet every week.
Oh, okay.
There are some exceptions, but you'll have to talk to Kadeem about how to get onto our schedule, because that's, I mean, I
Yes.
think we'd all be happy to look at your revisions, at any time, whether they're on the HGC's agenda or not. So I think that's something that we would be happy to do. So talk to Kadeem, maybe you can get us in,
Okay.
pictures in next week and bypass having to have the HGC look at it and then say the same thing.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And we'll, if we have it, if we can get it into you and Kadeem can arrange it for next Monday, then perhaps we can be on next Tuesday's agenda. So, but we'll see.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I understand. Thank you, Mickey.
All right, thanks, Bill.
You're welcome.
See you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Next, we have 23 Broad Street edition. This is the Brotherhood. Is there anybody representing this project on the?
Yes, I am. It's Matt McEachran.
Oh, hi,
Chair.
Matt.
Right.
I didn't even see your, oh, yeah, Matt's iPhone. Okay, there you are. All right, go ahead, Matt.
So this is just revised application. We've omitted the dormers. We actually shrunk the deck by about a foot, the projection off the deck by a foot. And then we also changed the direction of the stairs per the HDC's suggestion. We did put a version as an option with a pergola over the front, but the space inside that portion of the building is really quite dark, and we're really trying to just get as much light in there as possible. So really try to dial it back, and hopefully it's in good shape. So that's been all I have, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Okay. This isn't, well, I guess I'll just read what I have.
Hi,
Oh,
Chairman. There's some neighbors on that we would like a chance to speak as well. I don't know what time that would be at.
No, I'm glad you interrupted me. So now is the appropriate time for the neighbors to say something if they would like to chime in. So please go ahead.
Oh, I'd be happy to speak first, if I could. RC's on too, I think.
Okay, just identify your name and your
Oh, yes.
your location, I guess, would be helpful.
Thank you, Chairman Rowland. My name's Ann Lingaman Davis, and I'm from 10 Ash Street. Just for background, I grew up on 10 Ash. It's a multi-generational home, and it's been part of our family life since, for close to 6 decades. I'd like to turn the board's attention to one matter, and it's the preservation of the historic front facade of the building. Of course, this is not the Broad Street side, but is perpendicular to Broad. The character defining feature of the front facade is the friendship stair. The proposed deck extends out in terms of width well beyond the friendship stair and would totally reshape the view from Broad Street. The large deck, I think, would upstage this important historic element. And the sort of existing bump out wart that's just tucked behind the friendship stair, that's there now. I don't see it on the screen. There's a little bit that sort of comes out, but it stops widthwise just at the point of where the friendship stair ends. So when you look from Broad, it doesn't overpower the friendship stair. And I think this was done for a reason. It was meant to not upstage this aspect of the front facade, and the little bump out is subservient to what is there And it was done in a manner that was very thoughtful and restrained. And then I'd like to just say that putting all these sort of conspicuous additive features like the large seasonal tent, the merchandise table, the stage, the trash bins, the food kiosks will all be detrimental to the front facade of this very significant building. It's an interesting building because the facade is on the side. And I think it's got to be, it should be considered in this application. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for speaking about those issues, and they are important ones. That is the front facade, and it should be retained as primary. Is there anybody else that would like to, from the public, that would like to say anything?
Hi, yes, Chairman. My name is Roberta Saintimore, and I live on 2 Ash Lane, which is direct abutters of this property. We also submitted a letter that I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read yet, but it basically outlines what HDC comments were, and basically identifying in each bullet point when they said that the deck should be narrowed and restricted to a pathway. And I know the architect came on and said he reduced it a foot. He actually reduced it 9 inches from 8.1 to 7.4. And that is not really in keeping with what HDC's comments were, which is that it really wants to narrow it and make it a passageway instead of how big they are making it now. And just for reference point, like this is a driveway. The whole width of the driveway is 21 inches. So considering they want to make it as sticking out as much as it is, like Anne was saying, really takes away from the friendship stairs. I'd also like to point out the French doors. So again, the HDC commented about the French doors as they were in the first original plan, and it actually looks like they increased the number of French doors in this particular plan. And that goes again against what HDC said, which is there's too much glass on that wall. And they really did not even want to see that. So I just wanted to simply point out that there was a lot of things that HDC recommended that we're not really seeing those concerns that the neighbors talked about at that meeting. And obviously we wanted to take it back down to you guys and have a voice before it brings back to HDC as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is John Pressman. I just wanted to add a few more words and appreciate the time of the board. You know, to echo what other people have said, I mean, I understand their architect had said that they tried to dial back the plans, but I would say that it's what I would call a butt dial back, because they dialed back, but they didn't adjust the width of the deck, but they didn't adjust the number of doors and French doors. And I also think one of the key things that the HDC said was, as Ms. St. Amour just said, that deck should really just be a passageway. There wasn't one person on the HDC who thought that the current iteration, which is exactly the same as you're being shown, was appropriate. What they said was it really should be reduced to a passageway. And frankly, I think Commissioner Thornwell had said that those activities that were slated for that outdoor deck they should try to bring them inside if they're to be used at all. And I think our disappointment as a neighborhood is that they really haven't adjusted their plans to take into account the HDC's comments. And the other key point I think that needs to be raised here is that a tremendous portion of this plan renovation is proposed in the form of hardscaping. And we still don't have a hardscaping plan beyond what's put forth. And what we've been told is that's going to be done under a separate application. But the two components of the proposed design play off one another. And it's entirely impossible to really evaluate the propriety of the design without seeing what they plan for the hardscape. I would say what we've seen thus far, as Anne pointed out, between the kiosks and the tables and the gigantic umbrella that nobody on the HDC thought was appropriate, it leaves us more than a little bit concerned. You know, this is a real shift in tide and a tipping point moment. And we are very concerned as a neighborhood, as members of the island community, of what's to become of our historic district. Because if these plans get approved, there's really nothing to stop almost anything from getting approved in the historic district. So I thank you very much for your time. And I would implore the advisory board to really hold the line, because it's an important line to be held. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any others?
Mr. Chair, I just hope at the, after the board makes comments, I hope I have a chance just to respond if I could.
Yes, definitely, Matt. Remind me at the end, but I think we'll step in now and talk about our issues, and then be happy to hear your comments at the end.
Mickey,
Yeah,
is it possible for you to scroll? Are you doing?
I
Are you
am.
doing the scrolling? Can you scroll to what's existing and just what the difference is between that and what's proposed currently?
you know, I was looking for the existing drawings. Matt, were they submitted?
Yes.
That's not it.
I think these are the reductions.
This is,
You may want to go to the larger sheets.
okay. Oh, got it, a whole section of them here. Here we go. All right. So, any particular elevation, Angus?
Certainly the south and west, but also the floor plans.
All right, here's the south proposed, is previously submitted, which is no longer relevant, and then the existing over here to the left. On the west, we have okay, here's existing to the left and proposed on the right. And the floor plan here. Proposed and existing.
Thank you, Mickey. What I was looking for is how much is really sort of encroaching on the existing Friendship Stair, and how much is sort of exposed from Broad Street looking back along the west face. And you know, certainly a stair opposite the existing Friendship Stair was a odd choice, but it doesn't really extend, nor does the addition extend west, you know, beyond the Friendship Stair. So if you're just looking at a flat view, there isn't really, it doesn't encroach in a way that it creates a dominance, which in the proposed plan really sort of shifts the focus from the original entry and Friendship Stair to the larger deck and addition.
So, Mr. Chair, if I could just ask a quick question of Angus, because
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the existing condition, there's an existing stair that's very close to the existing Friendship Stair. And in fact, I think that our proposal pulls those stairs further away from that existing Friendship Stair. So I would actually submit to you that I think that this kind of cleans it up a little bit. And that existing condition is an existing condition that, you know, quote unquote, competes with that Friendship Stair. But I just wanted to point that out. And again, I didn't know if that's what you're saying, Angus, that it actually makes the situation better or worse.
Thanks for that, Matt. I appreciate the stair moving away from the existing stair, the existing Friendship Stair. But because it then projects out further towards the west, is a detraction. So, I mean, ideally there wouldn't be a stair, you know, right adjacent there, coming perpendicular or parallel with the west facade. So I think it helps to move the stair away, but the configuration and the scale of what is added, I think, makes it worse.
I mean, yeah, I'll keep my comments till the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Angus. Anybody else want to, from the board? Any thoughts?
Well, I agree with what the neighbors have said. And I particularly about the hardscaping plan. One of my concerns is how high is that umbrella?
Yeah, the umbrella, I think, is going to be a concern for a lot of people, but we're not
But
really.
are we reviewing the umbrella, or is the umbrella part of this application?
No, I was going to say, Matt, we're not really looking at the umbrella at the moment, so we'll have to reserve those comments till that's actually submitted.
Thanks.
Brooke or Jason, any thoughts?
I agree with the neighbors. I agree with Angus in particular with that friendship stair, because from Broad Street with that additional staircase and deck, it totally obliterates the view of that staircase. But I agree with what's been said.
Obliterates. Sorry.
And Brooke?
Yeah, so first of all, this stair is behind the friendship stairs, so you're gonna see it projecting out. And I think, to that end, I think that a simple fix would be to just flip the stair to the other side of the deck. You can still get on the deck, and it takes away a very busy look from the street. You can still get to that utility door. So instead of right where it is right now, if it's flipped to where next to where the kiosk is, I think it would knock down a lot of that busyness. And perhaps it doesn't need to, the deck could probably come in another foot, and you could still have enough room for a stair that comes up from right next to where the kiosk is. I think that would help a lot. I do feel like the deck encroaches on that driveway a little bit. And for me, just, having gone by there, many, many, many times over the years, and just being used to it being open, I think I don't know that it helps it being so close to, pinching down like it does on that driveway. But I don't really mind the deck there. I'd like to see fewer French doors, maybe a French door and some windows, but really it's, I think that just moving that stair to the other side would help a lot visually.
Okay.
That's it.
Thanks, Brooke. I'm going to kind of reiterate, I agree with everything pretty much that's been said, both by the neighbors and the board here. So my comments are, the 3 sets of French doors is too much. Let me get onto that elevation. Here we go. The 3 sets of doors is too much and should be changed to 1 set of French doors with flanking windows on either side. I think that's something we've been saying from the beginning, that we try to reduce the number of doors. I think they might have increased somehow. And then the elevated seating deck is an unusual feature which may be suitable in the wharf area, but not within the heart of the old historic district. And it's very visible from Broad Street. I think that deck is definitely a problem. It's just an awkward thing to have projecting off the face of a building downtown. You just don't see that anywhere else. Elevated deck like this, outdoor seating is fine, but it's usually on grade or in a more traditional looking covered porch, which this is not. I think the deck to me is a big problem. And what's not sure what's been brought up today, but I've heard concerns of is the screening and screening the exhaust equipment on the north side of this should be studied, because this, not sure if it shows. There's some exhaust fans. I'm not sure how visible it is from the street. from Ash Street. But it's,
Mickey, they would be visible from Ash Street.
yeah, I
There's
would,
an empty lot behind them.
that's what
Yeah,
I would,
those are existing, by the way. Those have been there for years.
I know that, Matt, but I'm just bringing up is a comment that I've heard mentioned, and I think that it would go a long way to appeasing the neighborhood. And, you know, they probably should have screened them back when the Brotherhood was rebuilt, you know, 10 or 15 years ago. So just a suggestion. So I'm going to ask if anybody else, including Matt, if you any other comments.
Sure. Yeah, a couple things. One is, I mean, I think, so obviously we have some neighbor input and I understand that and respect their comments. I think a majority of the comments are revolved around the, you know, the use of the building and some of the perceived uses and visions of what this thing is going to be. I'm here specifically to talk about the architectural features. And I would just ask the board respectfully if we can kind of focus on the features. And I know there's been a lot of back and forth, and we're trying to, you know, listen to the neighbors' concerns, but a lot of them have to do with use and what the perceived, you know, vision is for this space. As far as the landscape plan is concerned, there's a lot that's up in the air right now with the planning board. So the landscape plan and the existing hardscape is pretty much in place, if you will. Some of those other elements would be, if they were to be approved, we would have to seek an application for them. And I think at that time, that's when neighbors and or the board can comment on them. So I have a feeling things are going to be changing with some of those landscape elements. We did, in the interest of being transparent, just want to show what the overall plan was.
Yep.
As far as the French doors are concerned, like I said, we're trying to just get as much light into that space as possible. It's dark. It's not that pleasant. And so, you know, the owners are just looking to make it as light filled as possible. And that's why we've got the French doors. As far as the deck is concerned, you know, the deck itself, I mean, I'm sure we could find examples of elevated decks in the core district. And in this particular instance, because the first floor is located above, you know, roughly 4 to 5 feet above grade, you know, that's the condition we're dealing with. And I think that there are plenty of examples in the core district of structures, both residences and non-residences, that have that same condition. In this instance, we are adding a means of egress, while, you know, we do also want to have some level of a couple of high tops out there, but the primary purpose is really just kind of get people out of the building. So having said that, heard the comments about the reductions, you know, the reduction of the deck. I think we probably could switch the stairs to the other location, to the other side of the deck, but just, you know, keep in mind that the intent for the location of those stairs was that in the event of an emergency, you know, you are kind of being let out, specifically the stairs, as close to the public way as possible. So by flipping them backwards, you know, towards the back of the property, you're kind of directing people in the wrong direction. But again, I think that, you know, we could definitely look at that, but I at least wanted to express, you know, the reasoning behind it. So we're kind of trading the aesthetics for what I would say is theoretically a less, you know, a higher travel distance in case of an emergency to the public way. But, you know, we're certainly willing to look at that and do that. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. And I guess the one last element I would say is that the notion that the side elevation is the facade. I mean, in all my experience and just listening to all of your, you know, meetings over the years, and you know, the facade of the building, in my opinion, sits on Broad Street. It doesn't, you know, there is a side entrance for sure, and it certainly is part of the overall architectural composition. But to me, and I think that you would agree with me, that if I came in and said, listen, well, we're just going to completely, you know, redesign the Broad Street elevation, I think that you would treat that with, you know, significant resistance, because it's what faces Broad Street. And so you know, even though the front entrance is not on, the door is not on the facade that sits on Broad Street, I would still submit to you that the facade, the primary facade, is Broad Street. But even having said that, we're really not touching any part of that historic portion of the building. The portion that we are, you know, making adjustments to is a secondary later, much later addition that has since been significantly renovated in 2005. Finally, Mr. Chair, I would also just point out that this portion of the building that we're altering is set back from the road, that basically sits behind the bookstore. I'm not to say that it wouldn't be visible, but I would say that, by the time we do some landscaping, the goal is to create a certain level of, separation between the street or visibly anyways, and this portion of the building. But even having said that, because it is a secondary portion of the building and not one of the historic portions, we're basically taking a hands-off approach to the entire historic portion of this building, both the part that fronts on Broad Street and the side that has the entrance. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Matt. I mean, I can, you and I could argue about what is the front facade of this building probably forever, but I think the west elevation is the front of the building, and the front of the building is the primary concern when it's so visible, which this is. And I think the big concern for much of what we've said, and I think our board is focused not on use, but on the architecture. The concern that I have is that this deck projects well beyond the face of the front of this building, and it's in a public view shed. It's very visible. And I think that's mostly the concern, at least that I have, and I think the board and the neighbors too have all brought up this deck as a big concern. And it's
well, it's kind of the first time I've heard it, because you've reviewed this before, and I think it's a little bit of a pivot, and I think it's in line with the neighbors, which is fine. But here's the deal: we could debate it, like you said, agree to disagree. We can have a debate sometime, and I'd love to do that. Having said that, we are still not altering that portion of the building, and I would say that because of the configuration of this building, it's the lot configuration in particular. This is a driveway, so. But anyways, hear you loud and clear, but don't totally agree.
That's okay. All right, I'm going to close this one unless anybody from the neighborhood has any further comments, but I think we've heard enough on this one.
Can I just say one last thing, Mr. Chair, and very briefly?
Sure.
And this is John Pressman again at Ash Lane. I think the advisory board has it exactly right. I would say that the notion that this staircase is somehow being put in there to permit egress and ingress is just bogus. I mean, it's just bogus. I'm not trying to hold this against Matt. He's doing his job, but this is not for accessibility. There's entrances and an exit that's worked just fine for hundreds of years. There's no need for this addition, and it's certainly there for the aesthetic, not for movement. And in fact, their prior statements have actually said that the whole purpose of the deck is for the aesthetic and the design and to link the two spaces. It's not about getting people in and out, and certainly not there for emergency use. If it was, there'd be a handicap railing and a ramp, and there's not. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just counter that point real quick.
Please make it brief.
Yeah, we've said from the beginning, this deck serves multiple purposes. We want to create a visual connection between the first floor and that outdoor patio space. It does provide light. It will support additional egress capacity. Okay, it does not actually have to have an accessible lift, but so it's just, I don't know, that to say it's something that we've presented as bogus. We've been very transparent. Just read the transcripts. It will support additional egress capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I think we can wrap this one up. Thanks everybody for participating. We're going to move on to the next one, which is, find it.
Prospect.
Yeah.
I'm not opening this today, Mr. Chairman. We've changed the plan. And just so I don't have to listen to the neighbors on Mill Street, there is no spa. We've changed the plan, so I'm going to put the plan back in for your next meeting. So I'm not opening it today.
So not opening it today, meaning you're not going to present it as submitted to the HGC?
No, we've got to get this whole packet in there. It's about 46 pages, and this plan is not correct. That's what I'm saying. This plan doesn't exist anymore. That's the one that they have, and we've taken it out. So I have to put in the new plan. So I'm not going to get into a long, drawn out harassment by the neighbors on the spa, because we're not presenting with the spa. So we're changing the whole plan.
Are you withdrawing the spa?
Yeah. The new plan doesn't have a spot on it. We've reduced the bluestone. We've got a fence, et cetera, et cetera. So it's changed, and it was difficult because Mark Lombardi wasn't able to redo the plan, so we did it ourselves and redid the plan.
Okay, so you're gonna withdraw this application and resubmit a new one to the HGC?
No, I'm not withdrawing it. I'm just changing the plan out so you can see it anew next week.
All right, so
But the
that's
spa
all.
is not part of this application, period.
I think everybody's gonna be happy to hear that. But I just want to make sure that we, as the HSAB, have a chance to review the changes to this plan prior to the next HGC review.
Yeah, and I guess you're meeting every week, sort of now, aren't you?
We normally have been. We missed the last couple weeks for different reasons.
Different reasons, yeah. Holidays, to be sure.
That's one of them. Yeah.
All right, that's the end of it. I don't want to hear from the neighbors today.
Okay, no 38 Prospect. Thank you, Linda. So we'll move on to 7 North Mill. This is the garage and studio. So I'm seeing still a number of probably neighbors to this area on the screen. There are 3 different applications here. There's the garage, studio, the shed, and the hardscape. I might confuse things a little bit, but it's hard to separate the different issues in some cases. So I'm going to just say, if anybody wants to talk about any of these 3 aspects on 7 Mill, feel free to do so now. But I'm also looking to see if there's any representative of the client representative. Is there anybody here that represents the application? So doesn't look like it. So do any of the neighbors want to make any comments regarding the applications? Any of the 3?
I would please. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, my name's Joan Taylor. My husband's Bill Wilmot. We are direct abutters at 16 Mill Street. And I sent a letter on behalf of myself and the other abutter, Henry Mueller. He is up behind this property on 11 Mill Street. He also, I believe, controls the other Mueller property, which is owned by his sisters at this point, but is also an abutter. And we have coordinated on this letter for efficiency and to try to bring our concerns in a time-saving manner. I want to say I appreciate, everybody does, all the work that's been done, both by the owner, the designer, and your board and the Historic District Commission board on these plans. As you said, I think that one of the main points we made in a cover letter to your board, and you should have the letter we sent in front of you, is that it's only considering these 3 plans together that you really understand the impact that the changes, the shed, the garage, and the hardscape have to the site. And just to review, this is a very visible site. And I think the problem we've run into all along is not that the neighbors are difficult, but that the front of the site, which is where the garage comes in, and there's now a big parking area, is actually really not very visible. And it's what's considered the back of the site, which is highly visible. It is visible from Mill Street, traveled public way, somewhat from North Mill Street. It's also visible from the Eleanor Ham Pony Field, and it's visible from the newly established land bank lots. So I think all along that's been the issue. The concerns I want to express on behalf of the direct abutters that I mentioned are, first of all, when the house was sited, the new dwelling, if you go back, this is on a heavily treed lot with mature trees. And so we brought that to the attention of both your board and HDC, and they requested, and the designer complied with a tree survey to preserve some of these trees. And if you go back and look at that, on the northeast side of the house, there are 3 trees remaining. Once that garage is put in, the garage takes down 1 tree. I think the remaining concern really comes in, though, that all these trees seem to be removed on the landscape plan. And this would have a major impact on how the entire project is viewed from these public areas. Concern number 2 is related to the sloping and lower lands. And we're just asking and questioning if the bocce ball court and the proposed fire pit are appropriate in this historic area. And I think that that is also driving kind of a walled off approach to the landscape to hide these features, I'll say, from the public view. I'd like to understand the nature of the bocce ball court because that is on a slope and whether it's even going to be hidden. But it begs the question, are these appropriate in this location? Number 1, and they should be completely vetted by your body and HDC for that. And number 2, is this driving a different kind of landscaping that is in contrast to the informality and the historic nature of this rural area? Currently, most of the landscaping in the area is a reflection of its rural roots. So with that, I thank you. I believe I'm only representing the direct abutters, but I believe there are visual abutters that also wish to log in.
Thank you, Joan. I tend to agree with a lot of what you're saying. Is there anybody else that's on the call that wants to speak?
Yes, Mickey, it's Pat Beilman, representing the visual abutters.
Hi, Pat, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Joan, and thank you for the opportunity to present to you. My name is Pat Beilman. My husband, David Poor, and I live at 17 Mill Street. I'm speaking on behalf of the 26 neighbors who live in 13 homes surrounding the proposed development. We are visual abutters of the proposed development at 7 North Mill Street. We are concerned the proposed bocce ball court, associated retaining wall, and fire pit are inappropriate for the neighborhood and will be highly visible from Mill Street, a public traveled way. Additionally, we believe the newly proposed basement level window wells on the east and west ends of the main house, which will likely be 8 feet deep, may require above ground safety fencing unless grading is to be used. If fencing is anticipated, it should be proposed now and evaluated by the HDC. We have 5 chief concerns, and they are: number 1, the bocce ball court, retaining wall, and fire pit are out of place in the simple Quaker neighborhood of historically open vistas and natural landscaping, including the land bank open field and the Eleanor Ham pony field just below the proposed development. There is no other open space like this in the old historic district. Picture yourself walking on Mill Street after the sun sets and seeing a roaring fire on the hill, and ask yourselves, is this fire pit appropriate? Number 2, in an attempt to hide the bocce ball court and the fire pit, formal landscaping is proposed, which is also out of character with the existing open natural landscape. Specifically, the introduction of dense shrubbery, granite terracing, and sequential steps will erode the gentle and subtle patterns seen within the existing natural and historic landscape. Number 3, it appears, Joan had mentioned this, 4 specimen large canopied trees previously marked for preservation are now slated for demolition due to changes in the landscaping and garage studio placement. Why are these important trees being demolished if, in a previous meeting, the same trees were marked and approved for preservation? Number 4, the new features, likely with additional outdoor lighting and associated furniture, would be conspicuously displayed along the north side of the hill in a manner which would be detrimental to the existing natural context of the neighborhood and viewshed. And finally, given its location near the woods as well as the land bank open field, which can become quite dry, the fire pit is a fire hazard. Given the staged presentation of this development, first there was the main house, then the garage, studio, apartment, and shed, and now the bocce ball court, retaining wall, and fire pit, we are only now obtaining an understanding of the scope of this expansive project, which in total is quite impactful. It would be helpful to know now any future plans which the developer has in mind. Additionally, would it be possible for the HDC to modify the agenda, similar to how you've scheduled this today, so all elements of this development could be heard in sequence as opposed to being decoupled? We trust you will give these concerns your careful consideration, as always, and we appreciate all of your time and effort on this matter. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Covers a lot of ground. Anybody else want to make a comment at this point? Okay, so I have a pretty thorough list of concerns that I have specifically. So I think just to cover that first, I'll go ahead and read my list and then ask the board members to add or edit my list. And I'm starting with each application, starting with the garage and studio. First of all, it would be helpful to see the elevations of the garage and the main house together. It's hard to, in fact, I haven't even seen the final approval for the new dwelling, so I don't even know what that looks like. For some reason, that never came to our board as the revisions. Also, the position of the garage in nearly the same plane, the front of the garage in nearly the same plane as the front of the house is inappropriate and too suburban for this area. The garage should be set well behind the front facade of the house. The overall siting and juxtaposition of the various structures, including the main house, should be reconsidered for a more rural appearance. The garage in general should have a more of a barn-like character rather than a garage, perhaps with simpler trim and massing. The 10-foot by 8-foot glazed garage doors are too wide and too tall and too formal. Change them to batten doors. And HSAB would like to see this back again. I think maybe I'll ask the board if they have any comments about specifically the garage building at this time, other than what I've already mentioned.
Nikki, this is Jason. If I might, because I need to leave.
Yep.
If I could just kind of speak.
Yes, go ahead, Jason. I know you have to leave.
Sorry. I agree with everything that the neighbors have said. I am someone who, maybe to the chagrin of the neighbors, parks regularly along here in order to go to work, and it is unique in its view. It's unique in what you find in the old historic district, because we have nothing of this left, and this is something that would have, the Ham Pony Field and the surrounding areas have occurred in other spots around town. So it does have a very rural characteristic to it. And this, between the house, the garage, the shed, and then a bocce court and a fire pit, are just wholly inappropriate. And then all of the landscaping that goes with this. This is just going to, for lack of a better word at the moment, destroy the uniqueness of this area. And I don't think any of it is appropriate at all. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Jason. Anybody else? Brooke, Angus, Lucy?
Mickey, it's Angus. I feel like we're at a loss because we're not even looking at the primary element here, which is the approved dwelling. It's unfortunate that we didn't get to review the revisions. And so normally in reviewing the auxiliary structures and the supporting structures, we would have the main structure to sort of base our opinions about appropriateness in relation to that. So I wish we were looking at the main structure in order to fully be able to review the garage and the shed and the setting. And early on, we made the suggestion of the siding that really is recommended in building with Nantucket in mind, of the primary structure relating to the street. and the supporting structures being back behind that. And what we're faced with is a garage in front, which is very suburban sort of program, and really left wondering what's the front and back of this house, because it's been stated earlier in the meeting, from Mill Street, you see the, the back clearly, but then you also get to see this from the street where the driveway comes off of. So it's a bit challenging. I feel like I don't have all the information in front of me to really be able to review it, but I agree with pretty much everything that's been said, and definitely echo the comments about the setting and the drastic changes that this would impact with the trees and the gentle rolling slope of the existing hill, and just how this is a unique setting within the historic district, and it would be a shame to see it be compromised for really what is just trending now, which are all these elements. Thanks, Mickey.
Thanks, Angus. Lucy, your hand's up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do agree with what the neighbors have said. This is totally over landscaped. And I'm concerned about the elevation changes. There are way too many walls here. I worry that this may end up being something similar to the landscaping that's at the corner of North Beach and Cobblestone Hill.
Mhm.
That kind of looks like the Mayan ruins. Also, I agree that not knowing what the new dwelling is going to look like is a great concern, and those patio areas. And then other questions are, what about the outdoor lighting? If you've got, this potentially could have massive outdoor lighting, which is a great concern, especially in a somewhat rural area in the Historic District Commission. And I see no indication, or maybe I missed it, is what's the driveway material?
Not identified.
Yeah, there seems to be, there seems to be a lot of stuff that's not really identified. I mean, where are AC units? I mean, a number of things, which really concerns me. And I totally wholeheartedly agree that that trees that should be saved, and the rural character should be maintained, and we should see it back.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. Brooke?
Well, focusing on the garage and studio, I think it, first of all, the scale I think is appropriate. I do agree with you, Mickey, that it could probably be simplified a little bit in terms of the trim, and it is more difficult. It is difficult to see it without seeing the reference to the main house. My memory of the original application, that one of the things that has created this created this situation was the desire to make the building actually not face North Mill, so that it wouldn't have such a strong presence. And if you look at the site plan, you'll see that that is exactly what they've done. It could have been rotated 90 degrees, but I think that at the very beginning of this process, nobody wanted to see anything facing North Mill Street, and so that's why we are here. But I do, as far as the studio, I definitely lean towards you, Mr. Rowland.
Right. Thank you, Brooke. So the next one of the application is for the shed. We'll get to the landscaping in a second. The shed is pretty minor, relatively speaking, but my comments are this shed has more of the appearance of a small garage than a shed. It's one, and one garage is plenty enough for this property. So we basically are looking at two garages here. Replace the garage doors with a much smaller batten door, which would make it feel more like a shed, which is what they're calling it.
Can you bring the pictures
Yeah.
up, please?
Yeah,
Sorry. This is the shed. So it's, the scale is like a shed, but it's obviously going to be used as a garage. They even have treads, stone treads leading into it. Any comments from you guys about the shed in particular?
I have no concerns.
Okay. So the landscaping is the big one, and there's a lot to talk about here. Bring that up. All right. So the topographic changes proposed for this property to create a flat plateau for all three structures and the parking are too drastic and unnatural for this neighborhood. The existing slope of the hill should be retained as much as possible, with perhaps some minimal leveling at the front of the house. It's okay and more natural looking for the lawn to slope a little bit. The terracing for the proposed bocce court is completely out of character for the surrounding natural landscape and should be eliminated completely or moved to the lower area below. Fire pit will be very visible and is not at all appropriate for this location. The existing mature trees should be retained as an asset and used to make the overall property feel like it hasn't changed for generations. Eliminating them is a big concern and changes the character of the neighborhood. Surrounding the property with privet hedge is completely out of character for this neighborhood. Plantings should have a naturalized, informal feel. Granite steps on the hillside are unnecessary and out of character. The proposed parking area material is not identified. The size of the parking area is too large and not appropriate directly in front of the house. It should be reduced in size and off to one side. The stone walls flanking the driveway are too formal and should be eliminated. The driveway can remain steeper and the existing grade contoured slightly to make the retaining walls unnecessary. The driveway apron material is not identified and should be cobblestone. The stone strips leading to the shed accentuate the fact that there are two garages and those should be eliminated. The 12-foot evergreen screening, which is down to the I guess the east of the house. The 12-foot evergreen screening creates a very unnatural looking screening wall and should be made of clusters of plantings instead. It is not too much for the HDC to ask that this project share the generally simple and less formal characteristics of the existing neighboring properties. As presented, it will stand out as an isolated piece of suburbia within an existing, more rural context. In general, the siting of the structures and the tone of the landscaping elements and materials should be simplified and rethought to make this property fit into the existing neighborhood context. Keep it simple. HSAB would like to see further revisions. So I'm going to open it back up. Well, let me start with the board. Does anybody else on the board have any other comments?
well, sorry, I spoke up about the landscaping before, Mickey, but that what was in front of me.
Right, no, that's fine. Anything else, board?
I agree
No,
with
you said it all.
said. Yeah, I mean, for one plan to show trees and then the next plan to not show trees, it's I mean, it's sad to see any trees go unnecessarily, but then to sort of bait and switch with the other trees that show up and then don't show up and I think you've said it all. It's making something that's very rural and informal more formal and really manipulated.
Thanks. Okay, any members of the public want to make any further comments on this application?
Mickey, could you please make sure in your notes that there's a real concern about outdoor lighting?
Yeah, I took some further notes and I heard that, Lucy. I'm going to add that to my comments also.
Thank you.
All right, I think we've kind of gone through this one pretty thoroughly.
Nikki, one last thing about wanting to see revisions. I mean, we as a board want to see the revisions, not just we want to see revisions made. It's so awkward not to have seen the revisions of the main house or know what was approved.
I know. I don't know how we missed out on that one entirely, but I have no idea what was approved there. So I'm going to ask one of the office staff to send us, an approved, final approved version of the main house. All right, I think we can move on to the next application. Thanks everybody for attending, and your comments are very much appreciated. So on the agenda, we have next is 26 Washington Street, move off, which is right here. I don't see any. Is there anybody representing this application? Look like it. So this is basically, I just said that, first of all, I'm pretty sure the sections of this building are really pretty old, probably over 100 years old. And the history of this building and the original date of construction should be determined before approving a demolition. It'd be good to see Sanborn maps to show the history of what went on here. I think this building was moved not that long ago from up closer to the road back to create the parking area. So I think it's an old one and should be, dates should be provided. History should be provided.
Can you show me the photos? There are old parts of that building?
My recollection is this part right here, and I don't think I'm confusing the back because the back has this shallower pitch.
Yeah.
Was up closer to the street, and I think it used to have a big red anchor hanging off the front of it. And I think it was even called the Red Anchor Building or something to that effect.
Oh, wow.
So I think it's pretty old. I wish I knew more about the history, but I think that's something the applicant should provide. So anybody want to add to that? All right, we'll move on. 28 India Street, spa. So there's a couple things going on here. The first is the gate, which is right here. I don't think that's an issue for the most part. It's shown in elevation right there. Pretty simple. It's got a little swoop.
And what color is that?
What does it say?
I'm gonna go with white.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we had that application that they wanted a black gate on India Street.
Oh, that's right.
True.
That's right.
It's not stated, so.
Not stated.
Yeah. Color. So here we are with an application for a small pool, a spa. So my comment about the spa is the spa is a modern element within the old historic district and will have a detrimental effect on the historic character of the neighborhood. The voters of Nantucket and the neighbors have made it clear that pools are not wanted in the old historic district. A spa of this size is simply a small pool. Any other thoughts about that one?
Yeah, spa equipment.
Where's the equipment? Yep.
And lighting.
Yep. These pools are tough because they're pretty easy to screen, especially this location, but the neighbors, it's an impact on the neighborhood. and I just totally feel it's inappropriate.
Well, I think it'll be visible from Rose Lane. I mean, there is a fence there, but
All right, it's good.
Mickey, can you show the locust plan? Where is this? Oh, exactly.
Locus. It's right in the middle. Where is, I saw the, oh, it's right here. I want to say, is this the property with the treehouse?
it is.
And what is this on facing Rose Lane, Brooke? Is that just another house?
It is a garage.
Studio kind of thing, right?
It's, well, yeah, I mean, and that's being kind,
Yeah.
but yes, I think it's like a one-story structure.
You know, it looks like they've subdivided the property compared
They
to,
have, there's 3 different parcels.
okay. Yikes.
Yeah.
I agree. It looks like it could be visible from Rose Lane.
Yeah,
And I agree that it's a modern element that just detracts from the historic setting of the core of downtown.
Rose Lane ends here, Brooke, right at the end of that.
Yeah, right there, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So if this were 1 foot deep, it would be approximately what, 600 gallons? So, I mean, you're not far off with it being a small pool.
Well, you know, it's it's terminology, I guess. They, you know, they can call it a spa. I don't know if it fits into their gallonage and size loophole.
yeah, I just think visibility. I mean, if they're gonna have something like that, then I think that they need to move the fence closer to the spa.
Is this pretty much of an open yard back here, Brooke?
Well, yes, but if you go see where the word Rose Lane is,
Yep.
there is a like 7-foot fence there, but, or 6-foot fence, I should say, with lattice on the top.
Mhm.
So, you know, and there's hedge, but I think once the hedge gets cleared out, you'll have the ability to see into the backyard.
Is this it? There's some pictures on the side.
Yeah, that's the fence.
Mhm.
And actually, if the picture down below that, if you scroll down, the fence is to the right. That's the, you know, the backyard fence would be on the right-hand side of the lane.
Is this taken on Rose Lane?
Yeah, it's looking,
Yeah.
yeah, it's looking
Okay,
away from town.
okay, so that's the end of Rose Lane there.
Yes,
Okay, so here's the fence. Got
yeah.
it. Yep.
I mean, it's heavily vegetated and, you know, but I think there's a good chance you'll be able to see it. I think if they want to have something like that, then they need to move the fence closer to it
Mhm.
to really ensure that it's not visible. And,
Or provide some better screening.
yeah. And definitely the lights. No disco lights.
Yeah. No red, white, and blue.
Right. All right, anything else?
Well, you know, to me, that the placement of it smack dab in the middle of the yard is. You know, I wouldn't have done it that way.
Yeah. I imagine they're putting it central in the back of the house, so it's not visible from the street.
One thing I'd like to say that I appreciate is that there doesn't seem to be any hardscape.
I was just going to say, wait, I think that they may come in later with more hardscaping.
Well, that's a possibility.
Yeah,
This must be like, yeah, coping, you know, a couple of feet of coping around the pool.
yeah.
This is just one of those houses on India Street that you know, you really enjoy looking back into the sort of pastoral setting around the house. And, you know, I'm concerned about it being subdivided and what happens with each of those parcels. But looking from India Street, you know, it's nice that it's not right in front of the parking area or the driving area, that it's
Mhm.
tucked a little bit more to the back of the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
They made an effort to hide it for sure.
I think so. Yep, but it's still a spa, it's still a small pool. So not much more we can say about that. Anything else? Moving on to 36 Easton Street. So my take on this application is that they're replacing a handful of windows and they're actually making them better. They're kind of unifying the window style. They're changing from 6/6s to 2/2s. And they're not really adding much, if anything, that I'm aware of. And they're changing the bottom, the lattice or the vertical board nature on the bottom. That all looks fine. I don't, unless anybody sees something I missed, I don't see any issues with this application.
This is 36 Easton.
Yep,
Yeah, I think they're doing a great job. It looks awesome.
I think it's an improvement.
Yeah.
I think there are improvements on the flanking windows of the picture windows. This is a very funky house that is just, there's a lot going on that isn't formal. And I think that the difference, in the different kinds of fenestration complement the varying aspects of this building that have been, added willy-nilly around without a lot of structure. And I almost feel like the uniformity of 2/2s throughout, can take away some of the charm and make less sense of how different all the elements are. To have a whole bunch of different elements with the same element, kind of, I don't know. I feel like, one sort of works with the other.
I see what you're saying. I get it, Angus. I think the different window styles kind of speaks to the history of the building, I guess, to some degree. I wonder which followed what, if there was ever a logic to it.
But I mean, like the dormer window that we're looking at now up on the 3rd floor, obviously that's an improvement to have the four light as opposed to the 1/1. But, the 6/6 in the top left, kind of almost looks more charming and belongs more with that little bump out. The same with the little bump out in the bottom right. So I don't know, it's a mixed bag, but I kind of think that the mix of the smaller pane windows sort of helps in the charm and the ununiformity of all the additions.
So it's a point I hadn't really considered.
And the electric panel, I mean, why can't that get covered with fencing or something?
Yeah. That's the time.
Are they raising this building?
I didn't ask you.
Okay. Because I mean, I think the electric panel has to go up as well.
Right. Unless they're not touching it, maybe they can leave it. I did notice, what's this over here? This little unit.
Probably AC.
That's what I was wondering, inside little AC platform and a unit. Let's see what the floor plan is. It's probably right here.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, none of it bothers me. I think it's, given what we've seen, I think we should be patting this dude on the back.
I think what I'll still say is this generally looks okay, but some of the window, different window styles does speak to the history of the house. It may be worth retaining. Does that sound all right, more or less?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in general, this is definitely an improvement and they should be commended for it. I just think that the different types of fenestration complement the different types of additive massing that have happened over time.
What about the 1/1s?
Oh, that's a good change. Right
Yeah.
here.
So like maybe you keep the 6/6s and do the 2/2s, but get rid of the 1/1s. Like go to the next page, Mickey. Keep going. Well,
This
actually,
this is kind of a nice change. I'm okay with
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
And if you keep going, you
Similar.
got the picture windows with the 1/1s next to them.
Yeah, the 2/2s next to the picture
Yeah,
windows
I
is
think that's an
a
improvement.
great change.
Yeah, and this is all, it's actually all resized, at least this
Yeah.
one is. Oh, they've lost a screened porch area, I guess.
Yeah.
That's fine.
All right.
I like the 6/6 in that top right side.
Yeah.
Be nice to retain that.
So this
You
looks like
would, McLeod, you would.
this looks like a side addition on the, what is this? This is south facing the water, right? So this is the east side. Where's the east? North. Nope. Sorry. East. So they're both of those windows are in this funny little second story addition. And I kind of get it. I think it would be kind of, it's an awkward addition, but there it is. And the windows sort of help it stand out as a different piece of architecture.
Yeah. So how about we recommend they do 2/2s and 6/6s, but lose the 1/1s.
Okay, does that kind of cover the whole ground?
I think so. I mean, because they do indicate, just
Mhm.
I think would be called an ad hoc approach to the architecture.
Cover it. Yeah, all right, so I'm going to change it to that. So I'll take off my no concerns. Generally an improvement. And I'll edit that. You'll see that shortly. Not sure what the HTC is going to say about that one, but we'll find out. What was it originally? Hard to see them. 6/6s?
Look like shutters.
Yeah, that does.
I can't. Oh, the closed shutters, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're right. These same thing next door. And there's another one.
I think this is off season. You don't see anybody.
That's what the seasons were like back then.
That's the height of summer right there.
That's right.
Good times.
I don't know what these are. These look like 2/2s. Anyway, all right, moving on. Well, there's really nothing to move on to because it looks like, unless you guys could find it, I don't know where the for 6 Union Street, 90 North Liberty, and 8 Cliff Road, I couldn't find any drawings. So I don't think we can review those at the end of our agenda. And they're at the bottom of the list. I kind of checked the HGC's agenda, and it looks like they're at the end of their list too. So they probably won't get to them till after next week, hopefully.
Yeah, I think I think Kadeem has been kind of managing the agenda, so that the stuff that he thinks might get heard in a particular HDC meeting gets in front of us.
I think he has too. I think he's really tried to adjust their schedules to make sure that we're seeing it first. So
yeah,
that's good news.
So we were kind of going every week, and then then I thought we were shifting to every other week as long as we weren't missing anything that was showing up at the next meeting. But what's the sense? Are we every week again or every other week?
Good question. I kind of forgot about that, Angus. I think we all were happy to go to every other week, you know, with the caveat that we don't miss anything. So I'll try to ask Kadeem about that one.
Okay.
They still have a pretty long list. But I don't know.
I mean, I was happy not to have to review things a week ago, but I was a little bit surprised that we didn't have a meeting.
Me too. I know, so we missed 2 in a row. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. 2:27. So, well, I guess we'll be in touch about next week. Maybe next week will be an off week. We'll see how the HGC's schedule goes, and maybe we don't know until after the Thursday meeting. I don't know. When they've reviewed them all on their list. So I say we can adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded by Brooke.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
See Jason.
Aye.
Aye, me too.
Aye.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Mickey.
Mickey.
Thanks. Stop sharing.